Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Norman Wolfe established Quantum Leaders with the aim of helping organisations to achieve extraordinary results. In order to help leaders reach these goals, he has developed the Living Organisation System. Norman, I know that through your work as an executive coaching consultant, you seek the answer to the question, how do we improve our ability to get the results we want? So what is the answer to this question?
It's a pleasure to be here and speaking with you and your audience this morning. I think the core of the challenges we've had in trying to get organizations to achieve the outcomes they want is the fact that we have a way of thinking of organizations as machines of production. In that way, leaders simply are the ones responsible for really designing the machine, so to speak, and then employees simply act and do as they're told. They simply become component parts of the machine. In our view, and I think what's needed for today's world, is looking at an organization really as a living person, as a collective of people that act as a single living person. This opens up the possibility for greater resilience, much greater engagement, and the ability for the organization to more effectively achieve its outcomes. But it's a fundamental shift in the paradigm of how we view a business.
And what are the factors that stop us from getting the results that we want?
When it comes to producing any sort of outcome, it's really the people who are doing it. And people don't really respond well to being treated like component parts of a machine. It limits their ability to be creative and innovative. And all of the techniques we have been applying is focused on getting people to be good components in the machine. And that fundamentally is what gets in the way. When we shift that and look at the process of getting outcomes as a vehicle to develop the maturity and capability of the individuals and the collective as a whole, we're really developing the capacity to execute much more effectively.
So you devised the Living Organisation System as a means for obtaining extraordinary results. So what does the system entail?
So it's taking into account the fact that how individuals create results is based on three things: what they do, the relationships they have while they're doing it, and the underlying context, or you can consider it the core belief systems they have. And when you think of an organization as a collective, the organization has its activity, its relationships, and it's also collective context. So as a leader, I now have to focus on those three things, where in the previous paradigm, the machine paradigm, we only really focus on the activity aspect of it.
Do you use traditional strategy tools such as the business model canvas within the system?
Yeah, we use a form of a business model canvas. We build off of the balanced scorecard because I love the way the balanced scorecard integrates all of the key elements of what it takes to think about the business and where we're going. It has certain great qualities of it, but it's missing a number of elements. As I said, to create results, you have to take into account the activity, the relationship, and context. So in our version of the balanced scorecard, when we do the analysis and set objectives and build the canvas for how we're going to go from point A to point B, we call it road mapping. We take into account those other dimensions of an organization as a living person, not just the activity, mechanistic aspects of it.
And what results has the system delivered for your clients?
Well, over the last 6 years we've been using it. The clients we've have used it with have claimed a number of, not only have they been much more effective at achieving those results, they've also have responded by saying that they feel the foundation of the organization to grow much faster has increased. And also the leaders of the organization feel much more relieved from the pressure of having to make all decisions because the employees are now much more engaged in making contributions to the success of the whole collective instead of just their own little world. And in that way, the whole organization is much more focused, and it's not just the leader's responsibility to kind of whip the organization into performance, but the organization's actually making a collective contribution to the success.
And it is, of course, inevitable that no matter how much planning has taken place, the corporate world will throw the unexpected at you. So how should these situations be handled?
Well, again, when you have an organization that is highly resilient and responsive, as human beings can be, the organization has that capacity to quickly pivot, adapt, adjust, constantly read the tea leaves of the environment, what's going on. In the old way, because everything's so dependent on a kind of a top-down, give us direction. The world has changed. Boss, tell me what to do next. It slows things down and makes it almost impossible to respond to changes. With the living organization, because you're really having, engaged living entities operating as a collective, you can respond to the world much faster. And because you've developed the maturity as well as the capability of the organization, you can allow decision-making to happen at much lower levels. So all of that comes together to be able to respond to change. It's one of the reasons I created the model, because the old one is just not capable of facing the challenges of the 21st century.
Just on the topic of the challenges of the 21st century, given your experience of the corporate world, what are these emerging challenges?
Well, certainly the rapidity of change or the speed of change we're facing, the increase of new technologies, clearly artificial intelligence is one of them. The fact that competition is coming from unknown places. I think the classic case is you see companies like Amazon getting into healthcare, food delivery, grocery stores. They bought, Whole Foods. In the past, when you were, Whole Foods, all you had to worry about is people like Kroger or Trader Joe's, but now you got to worry about somebody like Amazon. I had a client that was in the high-end industrial fuse business. He was a distributor, and Amazon was biting at his heels. Who would think that, a company like Amazon would get into the industrial fuse business?
We live in a world of mass distraction today, from social media to many other demands on our time daily. So what are your top tips for remaining productive in the workplace?
Well, we have a thing we call the strategic compass, which is, one of the elements of it is what's your soulful purpose and what is the impact you make? I think having a very strong strategic compass, both at an individual level, what is my life all about, and as a collective level, what is this organization all about, helps keep us focused on where we're going, and helps make decisions about all the distractions. What should we pay attention to and what we don't?
Another challenge for many business owners is procrastination. How could they overcome that?
I think procrastination is really just fear of making a decision. And that's a lot to do with the fear of the unknown. One of the many skills we teach within the living organization system is there's two key skill sets. One is what we call heart-centered wisdom, and that's teaching leaders how to trust their intuition, how to incorporate the intuitive, instinctual into the logical and rational. And the second we teach is what we call the improvisation mindset, the ability to respond to life filled with uncertainty, and to know that your decisions that you're going to make are taking you in the right direction. Those two skills, being able to draw on your intuition and your instincts and your ability to deal with uncertainty, really helps with procrastination, because you have much more confidence in making decisions going forward.
For any leaders listening this morning, how should they go about managing change within an organization?
I think key to it, this is looking at an organization as a living entity, as a person. When we experience change, I remember many years ago, I was an executive with Hewlett Packard, and Ken Blanchard, the author of The 1 Minute Manager, came in as a speaker. And one of the things he said to us was, and we were going through massive change at that time, growing at over 50% a year, so everything was changing so rapidly. And he said, change is like death. Change inherently means what was is not something that will be anymore. Go through the whole thing and then reach acceptance, and let's move on. I think when we treat an organization as a living person, we're more apt to allow the organization to go through a grieving period, which is a process humans use to incorporate the changes in our life and then free up the energy to move on into the future. I had a specific client where I literally did that. The owner-founder passed away at his desk at the age of 92, and they brought in a new CEO. And the CEO quickly wanted to obliterate everything the owner-founder did because he felt he wanted to create a completely new culture. And he never gave the organization a chance to grieve. When I did this, I came in, the first thing, one of the key offsite facilitations I did was to have the group discuss what was good about the old way of operating, and then also ask the question. So, and that's like honoring the past, right? And then the next thing I did was have them talk about, so yeah, these were the good things, but what were the not so good things? And then what do we want to carry forward? It was almost like, a wake at a funeral where you talk about the persons, the good, the bad, the not so good, jokes, and all of that, to free up the energy to honor and yet let go of the past. And I think that's a wonderful process to facilitate change.
Norman, finally, organisations are nothing without the teams that work in them. So what can companies do to help their people to realise their full potential?
Well, I think it starts with what I said at the very beginning. We have to stop thinking of them as simple component parts of the machine and evaluating them based on skills. I often say traditionally we look at people as resources to achieve the goals and objectives we have. And I like to turn that around and I say we use the goals and objectives we have as a catalyst to create the challenge that develops the people we have. And with that new way of thinking, what you'll end up doing is creating an environment where people feel appreciated. They feel like they have the ability to grow and develop. They have the ability to contribute. And they feel like they belong to something more than just their own individual lives. And they make a contribution to that collective.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Norman Wolfe from Quantum Leaders, and I'm sure that the benefits of the living organisation system will pique the interest of the business leaders listening to this morning's show.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.